by a single bone-rattling chime followed Mr. Williams all the way back to the road. The red glow on the horizon pulsed with a life of its own, but he didn't look back. The only thing that mattered was getting home. He walked in a strained silence, the earlier fear replaced by a cold, numbing exhaustion. The world around them felt fragile, as if the very fabric of time had been stretched thin and was on the verge of tearing. When he arrived home, the kitchen was still lit. Katie had turned off the stove. She rushed to him, her face pale with worry. "It's done," Mr. Williams said, his voice flat. "It's buried. It's safe." He didn't mention the chimes or the crimson lights in the sky. He just needed to get them through the night. They all went to their rooms. The unspoken terror hung in the air. David tossed and turned, the silent voices and the sight of the glowing horizon replaying in his mind. He finally drifted into a fitful sleep, filled with dreams of gears and shadows. The next morning, the sun streamed through the bedroom window, warm and golden. David awoke to the smell of coffee and bacon, a blessed sense of normalcy returning. He went downstairs. His mother and grandfather were already at the kitchen table. "What's for breakfast?" he asked, his voice still a little groggy. Mr. Williams didn't answer. He was staring at the table, his coffee untouched. David followed his gaze, and his heart plummeted. In the center of the kitchen table, just as it had been last night, sat the wooden box. The lid was opened, and inside, gleaming ominously in the morning light, was the demonic clock. It had returned. "It's a curse," Mr. Williams whispered, his hands trembling as he backed away from the table. "An evil thing. There's only one thing to do." He walked to the telephone, his movements stiff and deliberate. "I'm calling Father Thomas. He's a man of God, a man of faith." His fingers fumbled with the dial, his face a mask of horror and resolve. Katie watched, her own fear a cold knot in her stomach, as he spoke in low, urgent tones. He finished the call and slowly placed the receiver back in its cradle. "He's coming," he said, turning to them. "He'll be here in an hour." A knock, light and hesitant, rattled the front door. David, startled, looked at his grandfather. Already it couldn't be, Mr. Williams murmured, his eyes wide. David, his curiosity overpowering his fear, went to the door and opened it. A man stood on the stoop. His face was shadowed by the porch light, but his features were kind, a smile on his lips. David didn't recognize him. He was about to ask who he was when Katie, who had followed David to the door, gasped, a hand flying to her mouth. "Matthew," she choked out, tears welling in her eyes. "Is that you?" Mr. Williams moved past them, his face a mixture of shock and utter disbelief. The man on the porch was a younger version of himself, a ghostly echo of the past. The man's eyes, so familiar and warm, were looking at them with a gentle confusion. "Hello, Father," the man said, his voice a ghost from a memory long buried. "I'm home." It was Matthew. It was Katie's husband, Mr. Williams's son, the one who had died in a car accident when David was a baby. Mr. Williams's breath caught in his throat. His son. The man on the porch had Matthew's eyes, his smile, the same gentle tilt of his head. A wave of profound grief and longing, a tidal wave of a decade of missed moments, threatened to drown him. He knew, with an icy certainty that had nothing to do with reason and everything to do with the clock's evil, that this was not his son. This was a trick, a cruel, demonic illusion. Yet the deep, agonizing ache in his heart begged him to give in, to believe, to embrace the impossible. He took a step forward, his hand outstretched. Katie and David saw the change in his eyes, the distant, glazed look of a man in a trance. "Dad, no," David yelled, his voice cracking. "Father, come inside," Katie urged, a note of frantic panic in her tone. But their voices were a distant echo. In Mr. Williams's mind, all he could hear was a single repeating phrase, a low, guttural whisper that mimicked Matthew's voice. But with the chilling reverb of the clock's demonic voices, "Hug me, hug me, hug me." The words were an unbearable command, a siren's call to a lost soul. The need to hold his son just one more time was a physical agony. He ignored the frantic hands grabbing at his arms and stepped into the darkness.